Hey, Jim, Rodney Carrington.
Hey, Rodney Carrington, get out of town. Is it really you? How would I know if it's really you?
Well, I don't know what else to tell you. They gave me your number and said, this is one of the guys you got to call. You got about 10 of them. So I said, all right, I'll call him.
All right. You don't know the secret password then, huh?
I don't. What is it, cinnamon? I'm guessing.
Just kidding. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I am doing pretty good. I'm home had this past weekend off, so I had a nice little break and been playing a little golf before the real cold weather gets here.
Oh, nice. Well, where do you reside? You have cold?
I live in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I've been I grew up in East Texas, and
right.
I was there until about 93. I drove through town. A guy begged me to drive through town back in 1993 to do a little bitty weekend, couple of one-nighters at a Holiday Inn lounge, and it changed my life forever. I met a woman there. 90 days later, she got pregnant, and we got married, and we had 3 kids. And about 5 years ago, she got bit by a raccoon and ran off. And I'm not kidding you. I mean, it's not something you. Are
you serious? Are you serious?
I'm serious. I'm not kidding you. She, I was married 18 years, and it just out of clear blue, she just walked in and said one day, it was like nothing. I never saw it coming. She just said, I don't think I want to be married anymore.
So the moral of the story is that you don't let your wife near a raccoon unless you want to.
Well, I don't know if it was a raccoon that had anything to do with it. I'm just saying it was that kind of a craziness that occurred, and then she just took off. Meaning that it certainly wasn't foreseen. You don't plan on it. 18 years of marriage, you think you're kind of over the hump and through the woods, and you're going to grow old and be grandparents together, and
it can happen. It can happen at any time. Well, you have quite a career: singer, author, comedian. You've been in movies. You've done some theater. Anything I missed?
Oh my goodness! Well, I've mowed my yard. I've planted some trees.
we all do that. Yeah, you're quite an accomplished guy, really. And let's start real quick. We'll go run through this as quick as we can. But
Sure.
How did you get into? Did they teach comedy at what was it, Kilgore College, where you went?
Well, that's funny you mentioned. That's a lot. You're going way back, but yeah. No, they didn't teach comedy. What it was, I was at Kilgore Junior College about 1988, 87, I guess it was, 87, 88, and I had a girlfriend at the time, said she was leaving and going to Texas A&M, and I needed to decide whether I was going with her, and I knew I wasn't going. And I walked over to the Fine Arts Department and said, I want to be an actor, and so began this journey, this 3-year journey. And during that time, I was doing things to try to expand my wheelhouse, and comedy was they had an open mic night at a really rundown bar in Longview, Texas, and I went there every weekend, and I somehow, some way, just started. I remember the night it was just 6 months in, they closed it down, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And I met a guy there who had a kind of a connection, and another guy that was a comedian, one of these comedians, said, put me in touch with a gal, and I started driving around and sleeping in my truck. I got a camper shell and a mattress that I found leaning up against a dumpster one night in an apartment complex, and I lived in that thing for better part of 7 years, traveling and going anywhere they'd have me. Back when gas was about 70 cents, 64 cents, somewhere around in that area range, where you could actually go make $125 and drive 16 hours to the next town,
Well, it sounds like a country music song.
Yeah, well, I'm telling you, it was like, looking back, I don't even know what possessed me. I was 21 years old.
Well, it's infectious. It's an infectious thing, I think. Anything in entertainment, and especially in comedy. Was it like, do you have the feedback of people who, did you feel like I actually made these people laugh? I got a response from them, and it becomes infectious, and you want more and more of it. Maybe that's what happened.
I wasn't working the nicest places. I was working places that were 7 drunk people in a Sheridan Inn, or something like that.
But they
it
laughed.
wasn't the greatest of circumstances. But I was still 21 years old, and you couldn't have convinced me at that time that I wasn't living the greatest life that ever was, because I had worked since I could remember, 14 years old, doing all these odd jobs and working hard and experiencing what manual labor was going to be like. I knew that wasn't a path I wanted to take. And so, the fact that they were giving me anything to get to the next town, to the next town, to the next town, and I was really just, it was great learning ground for me at that time, and of course, everything that came after it, as the success gradually grew in that, and it did. I mean, I went from working all these terrible places to working comedy clubs to eventually theaters, and now theaters and arenas, and I've been very fortunate. I shake my head now every time I pull up to some place, and I see all these people, and I'm like, how did I get here? I kind of go, how did this work? I mean, but it really is. It's really fun. I think I'm having more fun now than I ever had, because I realize it's not brain surgery. I always tell people at the show, if you learn anything, it's an accident. We're just here to have fun. So.
Well, let me pick your brain. Let me pick your brain a little bit here. In today's world, it is becoming more and more this politically correct BS. I feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too.
How do you fit in with that? I mean, you can just say I don't care, but then it gets to the point where there are people that get offended and so forth, and then your audience gets. I mean, even Jerry Seinfeld has said he can't do the college tour thing anymore because the kids either don't get it or they're offended.
Yeah, it's a strange thing. However, my audience is somebody that is a group of people across the United States and Canada and Australia and everywhere else that I've built over the years, are people who have lived life, who understand life. I don't see when I travel and plus I talk about my personal life. And how can you be offensive if you're talking about I've always said from the very beginning, if you talk about tell your personal story, how can that be offensive if it's your personal story? I mean, I don't offer opinions about what people should be doing or not be doing through my comedy. I offer them the truth about what's going on in my life and who we are as humans. Like here's the heinous truth of who we are as human beings through my own experience. So I don't worry about the political correct stuff. I don't even get caught up in all that. But there's always going to be somebody who gets offended. And most of the times nowadays when people say they get offended, it's really about drawing attention to themselves. It has nothing to do with them being offended. They like to, when a human being can go on the internet and post something, I was offended, that's just them drawing attention to themselves, and they're looking for somebody to go, yeah, you should be, blah, blah. It's kind of sad. It's a sad commentary for who we are, because life is hard enough. We don't need to be, quit telling everybody how they should be thinking or how they should be being, as long as they ain't hurting anybody.
Yeah, you got to you have to laugh. You got to laugh,
yeah.
And if you're laughing at yourself, that's the best thing. Where did you now? Probably in the beginning, it's just like anything in entertainment. You have to develop a style. You have to find out who you are. So probably in the beginning, you were probably just telling jokes. Where along the ways did you figure that your comedy act would be talking about yourself, or did you do that right from the start?
Well, I was writing. It's funny, back when you wrote letters, I would write letters on the road because I'd be on the road for quite some time, and I'd write letters on the road back to my friends. And I'd write these ridiculous letters about what I'd done. I did this, and I went here, and I went there. It would start like that. It would be in that frame. And those letters became bits, and, became comedy bits. And I thought, God, this is the way, that's how I discovered that to make my bits personal. I mean, there's no way of in the beginning you're just going, how am I going to make people laugh? And I really started doing it. I realized pretty early on through likability that I could get away with murder, which was sort of oh wow, I never saw that, or I didn't realize this. So I was able to get away with quite a bit, in the beginning, and kind of, kind of get myself through the early years. But as time went on, it got to more and more about, what I've experienced and what I've done. And even more so now, even more so, at 49 years old, life is different than 21 years old. 25, 30, 35, 40, you just think different. You either you grow in your mind, you grow in your perspective and the way you look at life, and you realize that, you might have about 20 Christmases left if you're lucky. And so certainly your perspective changes, so.
You got to have humor. You got to have humor. You really
yeah.
do. Music and humor, I think, are two of the greatest gifts we could have. You'll be here on Friday. You're coming to the KCAC. It's the Kovalchick complex here in Indiana, Pennsylvania. Have you been anywhere near this area before? Are you familiar with southwestern Pennsylvania at all?
It seems like I've been somewhere around there. I've been everywhere at once or twice. I have not been to this specific place that I'm coming to this weekend.
It's going to be a lot of fun. We are looking forward to it. And a little bit of what can we expect? You've been gracious here, and I'm sure holding back a little because you're on radio. But
well, what can you expect? I'm going to fly there. Somebody's going to pick me up an old beat up. If it's like every other week, they'll pick me up in some beat up old Toyota Corolla, and then they'll drive me to the back of the stage from the airport, and then I'm going to drink a cup of coffee, and then I'm going to walk on stage, and I'm going to save some souls, Jimmy. That's what I'm going to do. It's a.
You will be saved. You will be saved this Friday.
You will be. If you come to this show, you're going to heaven. No, it's a. I'm excited about it. A lot of the material has changed since the Netflix. Of course, the new Netflix special came out October the 3rd. It was shot at the BOK Center in Tulsa, Oklahoma, in front of 8,000 people. A show that I did. In fact, all I did was I set it up where I had a production company, a group of people that I knew say, just come out and film this. I need somebody to come film this show this weekend. I just want to, I think I'm ready to put together this special. And it turned out to be the special. So, and then, of course, the album's on iTunes, Here Comes the Truth. But, a lot of what this past 5 years has been about, when my wife and me divorced and unexpectedly back in 2012, it was quite a shock to us. It's a very humbling. Nobody plans on divorce. Nobody says, "Hey, listen here, Johnny, you might want to save your money when you get married because your partner might go bananas and just run off in about 18 years in." It's kind of it's like a tornado, and then the past 5 years, you're just kind of walking through a field, picking up pictures of stuff you kind of recognize. And along the way, I, living by yourself, now, during that time, I gained about 50 pounds. And I've never had a weight problem. I used to look at chubby people and think, how do you let yourself get like that? And at some point, I guess I went out and found out for myself. It was pretty easy when you kind of going through a little depressed stage.
Depression, yep.
Certainly a lot of comedy, a lot of humor came out of that. After you get past all of course, that's where it all comes from. Once you get past all the pain, you kind of look back and start laughing at
Well, again,
how it all occurred.
You got to find humor in yourself. I think it is medicine, good medicine, and we're looking for some good comedic medicine from you on Friday. And before I let you go, one final thing: you did, I think, just one movie, right? You were in Beer for My Horses.
Yes, sir.
And what kind of experience? I am still amazed that they made a full-length movie out of a 3-minute song. But somehow they did.
I met Toby Keith back in 1997. We were on the same record label, and of course, we had hung out at a few events and got along pretty good. And I ran into Toby. I guess it was around 2007 or so, or somewhere around that time before 2006, 2007. And we were at a bar in Nashville, and he was telling me about it, talking to me about it. And I went to his house about a week later and spent 3 days and wrote a 21-page outline over about a 10-month period. We wrote the script for Beer for My Horses, wow. and then we shot the movie. And I went down to the Star World 20 about 18 months from the time I talked to him to the time I saw the movie on the big screen, which was kind of neat because I'd written a lot of that in the basement of a house over about 2 miles from there. So
That's cool.
It was a great experience. I mean, it was fun because we had a good time. Of course, Tom Skerritt and Ted Nugent and Willie Nelson, and I got a chance to spend some time with them. And boy, Ted's quite the character. I mean, It seemed like anything he was eating was dead and on a stick. He's just that guy.
It must have been a lot of fun. But is that now? Would you like to do more movies? Would you like to write? I mean, it sounds like you enjoy. You have written books, but you like to write.
I certainly enjoyed it, but I got to tell you, my favorite thing is, I did television and I did all that stuff, and that's fine, but that's all work. That's going and working with different personalities. My favorite thing is coming up with the story, is creating the stories, creating the songs, and going to specific theaters, seeing the specific people who like what it is I do, and exchanging an hour and a half of laughter, and then going home, and then having a quality of life with the people that I love and care about. At the end of the day, I don't think I want more. I think I just want quality.
Well, we're looking for quality comedic value on Friday.
Oh, then you're in trouble, Jim, because you're getting none of that.
All right, well, listen, it is.
There's going to be a fat lady with a beard and a Ferris wheel in the parking lot. It's going to be crazy.
Well, that sounds like fun. That's our kind of fun. Well, listen, Rodney Carrington live this Friday, November 3rd at 8:00 at the Kovalchick Complex. We still have some tickets available for the show, but it's going to be a nice big crowd, and I'm not sure the exact amount, but it's over 3,000. You'll be there with close to 4,000. Going to be a lot of fun, and we're looking forward to you being here in Indiana, Pennsylvania. And thanks so much for being our guest on the radio.
Jim, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.